here, but to also get their hands on that last spot at the European Masters. So it's time to find out who the top dog in the UK is. We'll see you in a bit.
Against Misfits Academy, it should be fine and it should be a win for us.
It's objective, but it's a mountain drake. If that's a four-man shockwave into the ulti, and they're going to put everything down, but that's going to be ended. Able to find one as the whirling death is there, but it's a 2 for none. Make it a 3 for none. It's a double kill onto Baloo. Engine's alive. A triple kill onto the Oriana. Make it a quadra kill.
DIABOLUS now looking like a finals, potentially top UK team.
This is a perfect showing from DIABOLUS. Game 1 a little bit shaky, but they turn around, and Game 2 is absolutely dominant, and DIABOLUS are the first team to make it to the grand finals here at the Forge of Champions.
I think it will be interesting games because DIABOLUS has like a different play style to other teams. Like they play really aggressive, and I think that's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, they're going to go in now. Venza looking to get onto Prosper as well. A nice pillar. There's the teleport coming through. Afflicted on the sidelines. Venza right now is not being touched. He misses out on the ultimate from the Yasuo, but there is a knock-up. A massive, massive knock-up onto the entire XL roster, and Misfits are on clean-up duty. They should have janitor jobs because they have absolutely swept XL off the map. And Misfits push in. They're taking the first Nexus turret. They're looking to take the second. Nothing XL can do to stop them as Chrisberg takes another head for his belt. And that is going to be Misfits finding themselves in the finals of the Forge of Champions alongside DIABOLUS. So, that nicely set up our finals between DIABOLUS and Misfits. Welcome to the Forge of Champions Analyst Desk. My name is Scoundrel, joined by Orcs and Celtic Tiger. That is a little bit hype. I'm a little bit excited now. Maybe more than a little bit, actually. Looking at those two teams, they look fantastic. They look in good shape. And also, they were the, in inverted commas, underdogs coming into this finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Enclave and XL have the top 2 spots in the seeding. A lot of people expect them to at least put up a good fight, but they both got 2-0'd, which surprised for many.
I feel like I'd be more surprised by DIABOLUS Enclave, because DIABOLUS, yes, they'd been improving steadily since we saw them in playoffs. Of course, with the coach having come in, Bloomington did a great job with them, but certainly they hadn't looked very impressive. And coming out against Enclave, they absolutely did. They showed up that they have pretty much learned strategy in their week off, and are now showing up much stronger.
That's the thing, because at least Misfits won Forge of Champions 4, so we did understand that we were on better form.
Yes.
But with DIABOLUS, it really was the changes they've made between that last tournament and the grand finals that have cemented them as one of our top teams.
Right, before we jump into a full overview of this game and series, we're going to have to do a little bit of what I like to call housework. If you want to get involved in the discussion on Twitter, you can go to LVP UK on Twitter and use the hashtag Forge of Champions Finals. We want to know all of your opinions surrounding the players and the teams in this particular final. If you're upset that XL or Enclave are not there either, we'd also like to hear from you. If you want to go to YouTube and check out any of the previous videos from any of the Forge of Champions qualifying tournaments, as well as everything from yesterday, including the finals, which will be uploaded later on as well, go to LVP UK on YouTube and you can check them out. Now,
That's all out the way?
That's all out the way. The housework is done. I have done my job list. There we go. Pretty much anyway. Now we can look at this sort of final as an overview, because I think both teams look strong. I think that's admittedly. I think there are standout players on both teams as well. A lot of questions were being raised about would leader with I keep saying this wrong. Leader, right? It's
Leader.
Leader. Got it right. If would Leader be an upgrade or a downgrade with Special? Would it change their playstyle? It looked like Special just came back in and slotted back into that Misfits roster so well.
Yeah, I feel like Leader was a different style of player from Special. From talking to the rest of Misfits, apparently Special's comms are just so on point. He's a strong mid laner, and he's so vocal, helps the rest of the team. The difference between him was that Leader just essentially 1v9'd every game that he was in. It became the Leader show, and so I think it's probably actually worked out better for them to have Special, because yes, Leader was an amazing player, but if DIABOLUS had a strategy that would prevent him from popping off, which I mean, no team managed to so far, but if they did, that could mean that Misfits were a bit one-dimensional, whereas Special, he's going to do well in lane, but at the same time, he makes everyone else play better as well.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the one argument. The other argument is that Leader drew so many bans that the draft became easier. Certainly the fact that you weren't actually able to ban him out. It was very hard to find practice against his kind of champion pool because it was so diverse. So he offered a very different, I'd say, win condition to what Special does. But yes, I'd say definitely if you're looking at more standard play, this is a solid movement for Misfits.
Yeah, I think they looked incredibly clean yesterday. There was a few early mid-game sections where, especially Venza on the Kaisar found those picks and gave XL a lifeline, but hook, line, and sinker, Misfits put them to the bottom of the ocean eventually. Now, let's have a look at the other side of things, Diabolus. This is a team that coming into the finals, everybody put right at the bottom, and they were 4th seed for a reason. They did not have the best
seed before this as well. They didn't even get into the top 4 in the first round. So
yeah, I mean, and they really struggled, I think, coming through the regular qualifying and scoring tournaments. The first tournament, they got that win. Everybody kind of figured them out. They were having issues. Then suddenly, in between the end of Forge of Champions 4 and the finals, 2 player substitutions and a new coach coming in as well, and it has transformed this roster into a very, very competent team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big change for me is I think M-Test is a really talented AD carry, but obviously it's not just about having 5 talented players, because I think historically it's been seen a lot that 5 good players doesn't necessarily make a good team. I think the way Bloomberg, their coach, has been working with them has been good, but also Balulu in the mid lane, he's not special. He's not leader. He's not one of these super hard carry 1v9 players, but he does his job well. He can play defensive champs and facilitate his team. And even yesterday, he had some great performances and outshined Eren without making the game necessarily about him.
And just speaking of Balulu here, you can see his combos with NG. He really sort of stacked up on this Orianna.
Yeah, what I'd like to note as well is, yes, while we're talking a lot about how each of these players played, each of the new players coming in, and the coaching, what the coaching really did was it also allowed the 3 remaining players to step up, because we saw NG had amazing early games. He has much better pathing now after the coaching, and you could see that as well. Once they get leads, they know much better what to do with them. They're able to place aggressive wards and force objectives. And
Blummigan actually was talking to us, and he said, I worked with NG to help his pathing and make him more aggressive and make him sort of go to the right areas. We've got Flaxis into a situation where Flaxis is actually performing on tanks really well. Something that Blummigan said is he thought that Flaxis was the unsung hero of their series because of some of the decimating smashes and the ultimates that he pulled off on that Scion. So I think there's been a turnaround in mentality for Diabolus especially.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, is that we knew Diabolus had talent. You know, Flaxis has played in the LCS before, Anthrax has competed in the German scene. We knew that they were a talented roster. It was just they weren't finding the ground since that first Forge of Champions. And I think having a coach with as much experience as Bloomberg come in has helped sort that out, and it feels like the team is working much better together. And that's the difference between this roster and the roster that was playing in the previous tournaments.
So we've got the 2 rosters now. They're meeting in the finals for a best-of-5 series. I want to get your gut instinct on this. I want to know, I know it's hard to predict when you've not seen them play each other much, but I want to know gut instinct. From an analyst point of view, if you're looking at these 2 teams, who do you think goes in as the favoured?
Do you want to start?
I think Misfits goes in as slightly favoured because they've shown more consistency. I feel like even if you look at Diabolus yesterday, while you saw a great Game 2, Game 1 showed potential weaknesses to be exploited. Game 2 fixed those, but it's all about can they consistently perform at that level? Whereas on the other side, Misfits, ever since Forge 4, it has been, yes, there's been some shakier starts, but once they get a lead, they've been very consistent with closing out games.
I'm also going to favour Misfits. I think that there's a big discrepancy between the mid laners. I think Special is an excellent player, and I think it's not to discredit Bolulu, but I think a lot of the pressure he got last game was off the back of NG, and I think Special is just a completely other beast from Eren. I think they'll struggle to shut that down, and then on the rest of the map, I feel like Shikari can hold up against Flaxius, and I feel like the bot lane is fairly evenly matched, so I think that mid discrepancy really what pushes it in Misfits' favour for me.
Yeah, and I think most people would likely sit in the Misfits camp. The devil's advocate that I'm going to play here is we have not seen enough of this Diabolus roster to really understand their power level ceiling. You know, like what this team can achieve as a unit is kind of currently untested. So coming into this particular matchup with Misfits, you've got 2 games of these guys to look at, which there was some issues in the first game, but they still won what was supposed to be a Enclave win on paper. If you looked at that from 30 minutes onwards, you like Enclave, if they played that right, would have won that game, and they still managed to pull out the win. So there is untested water for Diabolus in terms of that roster.
My point then was why I was talking about consistency, because we don't know whether Diabolus can do that. If they can perform at that level, we're about to get a very close series, and it really could go either way.
I think so. So if you haven't been aware of the journey that these teams have made, let's take a look at the bracket. You can see Misfits, they beat M&M, they beat XL, all 2-0s for them, very competent coming out of Forge of Champions 4. And honestly, XL for the most part are not mean competition. You know, they are a good team, and they have been one of the best teams in the UK for a considerable period of time, so it just shows you how well Misfits have done. DIABOLUS had a bit of a harder time. So no, they didn't. They actually were 2-0. I was looking at Enclave. They 2-0'd Wind and Rain. Wind and Rain actually were slowly getting better over the course of Forge. So that was a decent team to have to play up against. And Enclave, I think, underperformed in that semi-finals versus DIABOLUS, but it just shows you how good DIABOLUS have got since that Forge of Champions.
Yeah, I think a big thing to take into account is that Misfits, although they have experience playing with Special last split, this is quite new to having this roster. And the same with DIABOLUS, this is a new roster. Neither of these teams have lost a game on the stage yet. You know, they've all just gone 2-0. It's comfortable, easy getting through here. I'm wondering what will happen if they drop a game. Will they start to falter?
So, in Twitch chat, you will notice that there is a poll being posted. You need to spam the team that you think is going to win. Misfits or DIABOLUS. Just spam that in Twitch chat and we'll have a poll result for who you think is going to be the victor in this final. I want Kappa level spams here, guys. I want to see exactly who you guys think are going to win. So make sure you vote in that poll. It'll be awesome. So, I think overall, we've got the Forge of Champions finals on the line, which makes you basically the king of the UK. But most importantly, a direct in play. I believe we have a small video actually to just tease this right here. You can see before we go in. There's a look at the stage, as you can see. DIABOLUS on the left, Misfits on the right, and the Forge of Champions trophy there in the middle. And we're actually going to show you the rosters. So actually, rosters coming in now. Didn't realize. Flaxis, NG, Balulu, M-Test, and Anthrax for DIABOLUS. We saw these guys yesterday. They are on the left side of the stage there. All of them looking ready for this final.
Yeah, and then should see the other side with Misfits. And that is top lane Shikari, jungler Afflict, mid lane Special, AD carry Chrisberg, and support Crossfair on the right side of the stage. The reigning champions of the UK, ready to defend their crown.
Spoke to these guys yesterday. They seemed really confident.
I think both teams. I think every team
is
really confident.
I mean, they have respect for each other, but certainly they're both coming in expecting victory. So, I mean, one of them has to be wrong.
Yeah, well, obviously, we can't get a draw in a best of 5 here. I think I'm really excited about a particular matchup. I don't know whether you guys are going to agree with me. I'm really excited for Shikari versus Flaxish. I think Shikari has been one of those players that has just kind of gone under the radar about how good he is. And Orcs brought up a great point yesterday. This guy's a 3-time, or could be a 3-time in a row UK champion.
Yeah, if he wins today, because he won last split with Misfits, won the split before with XL, this would be the 3rd time in a row, which is a big achievement. And I think it's testament to the way he plays. He's not the flashiest player, but he is very consistent, and even when he struggles in lane, you know, he had a bad game against Rift on Poppy where he fell behind, he managed to impact the team fights massively, and actually against Sendo, who was his replacement on XL, he managed to solo kill several times in a favourable matchup for Sendo, so I think he's been doing really solid throughout this tournament. I want to see what he can do today.
I mean, I would be very excited for the matchup were I not predicting that they're just going to pick Sion Cho'Gath constantly.
I mean, but the thing
we saw solo kills in that matchup yesterday, actually.
Yeah, no, this is the point. I want to highlight that I think Shikari is one of the best tank v tank players that we have in. Yeah, it's hard. I know it's hard, but he somehow finds those smaller.
Yeah, I'm not saying that tank v tank can't have kills in it. I'm just saying they're way less fun.
What I'm saying is we should just focus only on the tank v tank top. Just have a point of view stream. Ignore the rest of the map. That's what we want.
That's exactly. As a top lane main, I would thoroughly enjoy the learning experience. Okay, so before we had rosters, we were just talking a little bit about what this means for the teams.
And there's the coach. We were talking about that before. Zen, coach for the Misfits roster, did work with the LCS team briefly as assistant coach and then returned to the academy team to help shore up the issues. And Bloomigan, the new addition he has, coached in the UK scene before, but has quite a repertoire, and he is now back with DIABOLUS and has been a big part in redeeming them. He's
been across multiple teams, actually, Bloomigan. He's been Turkish scene, he's been Russian scene, he's worked with LCS teams as an analyst before as well, so plenty of high-level experience on that guy, and he takes the job very, very seriously. He's got a bit of a fun personality on Twitter, but when you meet him in real life, he really knows the game down to a T.
Once he's in-game and once he's in draft, you could definitely feel that the shift in personality to a very serious kind of work mode almost.
So obviously the UK title is on the line here, the Forge of Champions winners, they'll get that trophy. But, you know, something that we've mentioned quite a lot but haven't touched on just yet is that EU Masters spot, straight to groups. So you skip the play-in stage if you beat this, because Enclave unfortunately have secured
a EU Masters spot, but it is the play-in spot. They're not going to get. They were hopefully looking for a group spot, but unfortunately that's going to be the play-ins. They have to go through the gauntlet style approach to the EU Masters, whereas the team that wins goes straight to groups.
Yeah, so that's why Misfits would have actually hoped to be playing Enclave today, because that means they would have been guaranteed a spot in the EU Masters, whereas because they're playing against Diabolus, if the team comes second here, you're just completely cut out of EU Masters, which could be devastating for Diabolus, as they've beaten Enclave, and if they lose today, Enclave got a EU Masters and they don't.
So two things is that Misfits had a really poor EU Masters showing at the previous EU Masters. They did not play the way they would have wanted to, I believe. And Diabolus, the team that was pegged to make the EU Masters from the previous UK split, unfortunately never made that. So both of these teams will be wanting desperately to show that they can strut the sort of top-tier UK scene on the European stage.
They have stuff to prove.
Yeah.
And fact is, if they don't make it through today, they don't get that chance.
Let's talk about the picks and bans, Galio and Oriana. Mid-lane targeting coming out left, right, and center here.
Yeah, so Bolulu's someone who's shown a short champion pool. Those three champions.
Those are his three champions.
That's what he's played. He's going to be pushed a bit in this regard. One of the unfortunate things, I was speaking to Bloomgan, he was saying, is he feels that they're going to have to focus special out, because Akali is something you'd often ban away, but LeBlanc has seen so much prevalence, and Bolulu just simply doesn't play them. So although it's fine to ban those on red side, I feel he'll have to do it on blue side as well.
The big thing here is, though, I was considering that Bolulu has also got a lot of Xerath and Azir under his belt. He could lean back towards that now that these three banned out. I also expect that Misfits will now follow up first pick. They put a lot of presence on Braum in the previous series.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll maintain that.
I think Braum's always a solid first pick for Prosper specifically. He plays really well on it.
Sejuani could be a big contender.
Yeah,
they played a lot of that, but NG showed he was willing to pay Kindred into that, so it may not go that way. They are just actually going to take this Rise for special, you would assume, but we have known that some of the teams were talking about they could use it as a flex into the top lane.
Yes,
specifically. We have to do now that just because mid lane's been pressured out, special wants a pick he knows he's confident on.
Specifically Diabolus talking, because we know Flaxish can play Rise and has played Rise in the top lane before as well. I'm also interested, they've got the Varus Braum bot lane locked in immediately. M-Test had a really good performance on Varus over the previous series as well. He played Lethality Varus in the first game, didn't he, I believe? And then and then ended up playing something different, but he's shown that he has got that under his belt.
I think as well is that people talk about Lucian Braum, people talk about Caitlyn Morg, Zyra Khan. Varus Braum is actually a really solid lane. You have the lockup from the Varus at level 6 and then the follow-up from the Braum, and also the amount of attack speed you get, easy to set up that stun. It's a really strong 2v2 lane to pick up already, and it makes sense that Chris Briggs is going to go for something safe in this Tristana, and then as we talked about, the contested Sejuani, which also denies Braum Sejuani from Diabolus.
Almost certainly I expect the Trundle to follow it up as opposed to the Kindred. I feel like the Kindred is a little more risky, and especially in game 1, I feel like you want to test the waters with something a little less so, but actually going to lean towards the Gragas instead.
Well, that doesn't have to go jungle,
I was going to say, technically, they can flex this a bit, so now the ban phase 2 becomes much harder for Misfits.
Yeah, traditionally you could flex it to support as well, but with the Braum already on the table, don't think that's going to happen.
I'd even note mid. Bolulu has been heavily banned out, so he could put this Gragas mid if he's potentially practiced it.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it.
It could happen, and we want to see the bans. We saw Prosper take Pyke into Braum yesterday, not going to have that option now.
What do you think of a Rise Xerath matchup? Because it is something that we were talking to Diabolus about, that Bolulu is known for having an incredible Xerath.
One of the advantages of the Xerath is that you are much longer range than the Rise. Rise is short range, so you can just keep him at bay, and the thing is, if you take Cleanse, Sejuani Rise is going to struggle to really punish you.
And the strong thing about Xerath as well is that you can match Rise's wave clear, because a lot of champions really struggle because Rise pushes in and then looks for the side lane and roams. Xerath can deny that quite well.
Yeah, and I think then you can just play around your side lanes, which is something Diabolus have shown they like to do, and just have that turret in the mid lane.
I wonder if Misfits have even clocked that Xerath is on the table, because the Azir has been clocked here, which is, this is a 5-ban Bolulu phase right now for Misfits. They really want to, I think it's less respecting Bolulu, but more trying to put him in an awkward position.
And Ziggs.
Oh,
Ziggs
my goodness.
I mean, that's a very safe champion as well. We were talking about literally playback, match wave clear, and Ziggs does do that.
Yeah, it's the same concept. I think, honestly, it actually has more safety than the Xerath. You often think of Xerath as really a mobile mage. The Satchel Charge on Ziggs, having played with Krumel, who's a former player in the UK who often went to Ziggs, you are so safe with that. If you take Cleanse as is, if you have that Satchel Charge available, it's so hard to pin you down.
He also scales incredibly well into the late game for team fight situations and having siege. But look at this. This is a spicy, spicy draft for the first game of our finals. That is Prosfair locking in the Leona.
Yeah, and it's an aggressive pick. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I mean, Alistair does have some issues into Braum, so I can understand this flex, but I did have a lot more confidence in that pick in general in this meta. Leona is something that will be able to punish your squishy champions, especially if the Gragas does go towards an AP build, can get caught out and popped, particularly with the Tristana to back you up.
This is a heavy protection composition coming from.
Oh, okay.
That is a Flaxish special, by the way. That
yeah,
is...
I have played against Flaxish Ilaoi in solo queue once. I never knew Ilaoi could do that much damage, and it's honestly such a strong pick in his hands. It's not something we saw often. It's not something you often think is strong, but the way he plays it, he 1v9 that game really hard, and in a matchup like Maokai, it's understandable he takes it here. Misfits might have a problem on their hands.
Right. Gentlemen, this is the time of the draft where I like to talk about the win conditions of each team. Let's start with Misfits. It, to me, looks like scaling, but Orcs, what do you think?
I think scaling definitely is it. You have really good 5v5 team fight. If the Tristan and the Rise can just pump damage into the front line of Diabolus, they will come out ahead.
Their team fighting is so strong, not just because they have the damage, but look at the engage options they have there. You have Sejuani, you have Maokai, and you have Leona. You could just run through people. Yeah, you can stun lock people until they die. I think that's the real strength here, and that's what they're going to look for.
If I had that team in a solo queue game, I'd be like, hell yeah, because CC wins solo queue games, you know. Have a look at the other side of the coin, though. What are we looking at for the side of
They
Diabolus?
definitely have the split push with the Ilaoi. 100%, that is always an option. However, they then need to match that with, okay, we have to wave clear with the likes of Ziggs, and it's all about they need to do well in the lanes to then push an advantage.
I think it comes down to NG. You have the Gragas with Predator, should make more impact in the Sejuani in the early game. If you can get the bot lane and the top lane going early, you can snowball into a situation where, as you said, you can split push safely and win the game out of that. However, if you do start to struggle, if Ilaoi falls behind or the other team just starts to get big advantages, Diabolus could be in trouble.
So, we are about to head into the first game of our Forge of Champions finals. I'm going to bow out, actually, and I'm going to hand it over to...
Thank God.
Oh, goodness me. We will be having a cast with Hiprain, Orcs, and Celtic. We have a special occasion for a TriCast. So I will see you guys after the game.
Bye.
Yeah, there's a little passover coming through, guys. But certainly, I'm looking forward to this matchup. I think these guys, especially with the draft, I love this really aggressive draft coming out early on from Diabolus. I think especially in a best of 5, it can be very interesting to see teams effectively test the waters in that first game.
Yeah. All right, lads, what did I miss?
You missed the whole draft, so
yeah,
don't know what you've been doing.
Cool.
But I think one thing to go into that is we saw this exact same sort of style come against Leader. And yes, it's a very different situation where Leader was like, we can't control them, we need to ban everything away. But one of the issues is if you ban all of these champions away from Bolulu and he still has something he's comfortable playing, have you really done that much to justify all those bans? Because you've given them Varus Braum, which is a strong bot lane. You've given them the Gragas, which you've seen banned away. Is putting him on the Ziggs worth burning all 5 of your bans?
Well, the question is his Ziggs good? We have not seen his Ziggs. If it can manage, if it can do well coming through in the early to mid game, it'll have been fine. And as you said, it won't have been worthwhile pouring 5 bans into it. But if it starts to struggle, maybe it was the right move for Misfits.
And Orcs, you brought it up actually in the champion select, but you had spoken to Bolulu about, not Bolulu, sorry, Blumingen about Bolulu's champion pool. And the 3 champions that were banned were the ones that, you know, he said they're the only champions he's really comfortable on. So, yes, the Ziggs might be, like, okay in this scenario, but you're raising the question, can he play the Ziggs? We've heard from the coach that might not be the case.
The thing I would say is, do you need much skill to play Ziggs in this scenario? I think you're just going to become a wave clear bot.
Yeah.
You literally just have to... You're playing PvE. You kill the waves, you don't die, golden. You get your team to the point where they're going to carry. The game isn't about Bolulu. The game is about Bolulu surviving. If he does that, his job is done for his team.
While the game isn't about Bolulu, it then does become about Special. Can Special punish this? Yes, it's easy to just wave clear, but can you stay safe during that? Because we've seen Special able to punish mid laners attempting to play safe.
And if he gets lane priority, he is on that Rise, does have that Realm Warp available. If he impacts the other lanes and punishes Flaxish, that could really throw a span in the works for Diabolus.
Speaking of punishing lanes, you have to then look back to this jungle matchup. You touched on it earlier, Gragas should have more early pressure, and that can help deal with all these solo lanes especially, and snowball them further. And when you're looking at things like this, potentially wanting to make the Ziggs pick uncomfortable, I expect to see a lot of ganks put there.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the one issue I have, is just that I don't think Sejuani can impact a Ziggs as much as other junglers can. I think Afflict is going to struggle to really make his impact known. I think if you look at the lanes and ask where can you gank, I'd say Ilaoi, if he oversteps, can be punished. bot lane would have to really be messing up if you could punish a Braum Varus. It's normally difficult when they have so much CC. I don't know, Afflict, if he survives the early game and he gets his team to the late stage, great, but might have some trouble on the hands if he isn't able to find the impact or match what NG does. And we've seen so far, NG has been great in the early game.
Well, as you can see, we are currently in a little bit of a pause. It wouldn't be the UK scene. It wouldn't be the UK scene finals without a pause. That's what the problem is on Misfits' side, so hopefully we'll get that ironed out.
So you can blame them.
Yeah, I think
for waiting.
Chris Big loaded into game was like, oh, what, Tristana doesn't have like 550 range at level 1.
I remember Tristana's early game used to be ridiculous for a champion that scaled so well.
Yeah. But, you know, it's still a champion.
Fairly okay. I mean, it's not
what it was.
Yeah.
It's not, I will destroy everyone.
The big thing with Tristana is you have a lot of safety with your rocket jump, but into something like the Varus. Varus has a range advantage above normal 550 champs. It's only 25, but against a Tristana whose range in the early game got nerfed, even more significant, and you have the early trading power. So I would expect Chrisberg and Prospect to fall behind slightly in the early levels.
But the one thing here is they did go for the Leona, which is a more aggressive pick. Can they make that work? Because effectively, if you pick Leona into the likes of Varus Braum, you have to very quickly win all ins or it gets turned around on.
Yeah.
Well, we're loading through onto the Summoner's Rift for our first game of the day. Misfits and DIABOLUS will be going head-to-head in a best-of-5. One spot remains at the European Masters to represent the UK, and also a gorgeous, gorgeous trophy on the line as well. And it's a matter of pride. Misfits, current reigning kings of the UK, want to continue to hold that title.
Okay, so actually something to touch on is we were talking about the Ziggs a lot, and it's actually not Balulu who's gone for it. They did do a last-minute swap off-screen. They've given the Varus mid, which will likely be the lethality build, especially with Comet already gone for. So that's your wave clear still there. And now it's Ziggs Braum. So much pushing power in that bot lane.
I mean, the concept is similar in that the Varus is going to outrange the Ryze. It's something you can have advantage over him. The issue is I feel like he is a bit more vulnerable than the Ziggs would be. Going to see how well he fares in the mid lane. Clearly confident in the situation. With M-Test on the Ziggs, going to have some even more shoving power into a Leona. You have that massive ability just to push the waves in. Tristana slightly weaker early game. It could mean the early game goes way more in DIABOLUS' favor, but they have to capitalize because their scaling has moved down a little bit with the lethality Varus rather than the on-hit.
Okay, but also looking towards this from DIABOLUS' side. They have the winning top lane. No one's disputing that. Alawi outright beats Maokai, especially as the game goes further on. And it looks like Flaxish wants to get that matchup going as soon as possible because you've gone for the Kleptomancy on Alawi, the other option generally being something like Grasp of the Undying. Kleptomancy means you hit your key items earlier, especially Black Cleaver for chunking through that Maokai.
Absolutely. And you see NG going for an aggressive invade. Might be found by Afflict here, though.
Yeah, let's see if actually he is able to get this. It looks like Smites are up and NG will be able to secure that, so Flick does lose the buff. Has at least got his blue buff, so he's a little bit more sustained. But NG now, without that Smite, is going to struggle to contest out the Scuttle Crab, so heading back towards that mid lane.
Not too much of an issue. The top Scuttle Crab available as well, so likely they will just trade here. Big thing is, though, you have a shoving mid lane with this Varus. You have a shoving bot lane with this Ziggs. Flax is able to shove in the top as well, so NG has complete free reign in these early levels.
There was a cool interaction there where the Arcane Smash actually cancelled out the Leap of Faith.
The Harsh Lesson.
Harsh Lesson, that's the one. We literally had this conversation yesterday on air. I'm glad we did our Lowry revision before coming into this cast, because I wasn't expecting to see that. I wasn't expecting to see a Leona either, but they did kind of target out Prosper in that second ban phase on the side of DIABOLUS, so decides to go for something a little bit more aggressive. And Prosper said yesterday to me, when I gave him the little interview, he said, I like to play aggressive supports. You know, everyone kind of thinks of me as a more passive support player, you know, is there as the shot caller. But actually, he is capable of playing these aggressive supports. We saw his Pyke yesterday, and he popped off. Yeah, and it's a lot easier to shot call when you're on the engage, because you dictate by your actions. You go in, so the rest of the team will follow up. It's an easier one to do when you're on something like the Leona, as opposed to playing something more defensive. And I think that's why he's gone towards his pick.
I'm really interested to see how this plays out as we go further on. I like that NG's using all the lane priority they have, consistently invading the Sejuani, because we touched on the fact that Gragas can have more impact in the lanes. Interestingly, it's actually the lanes having more impact on Gragas. He's being given extra farm because they're able to push up, because they're able to maintain control of the areas as he approaches them.
Yeah, one thing has to be said though, Special seemed to get a bit more control over the mid lane. Did get shoved in early. Big fact is he has a teleport available, so he can shove this lane out, look to get the tier, and then TP back in lane. That's why he's so willing to burn so much mana in this trade. Blulu fighting back.
That's a lot of mana to burn.
Into there. Blulu flashes forward. Special's on the run. He is running low. Piercing arrow not going to come up in time, and Special is able to get out with his life. You can't fight a Varus in his wave.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. The big thing for Special is that he's going to be able to recall and TP back in. However, Blulu still has his cleanse, which is going to be very effective at keeping him safe. Special is now summonerless on this rise. Could be vulnerable.
And interestingly, this is something we've seen Blulu do last game as well. Normally you go for the biscuit delivery with Time Warp Tonic. He's gone for the minion dematerializer just to ensure that lane push early on. And you can see it has paid off somewhat.
He managed to shove in, he managed to use that wave's advantage to win the trade, so yeah, you can't dispute that. And actually, one of the big things is that Special recalled didn't quite have enough money for that tier. Remember, did get nerfed to the point that it's 850 gold, ended up getting a Dark Seal and a Sapphire Crystal. So although he managed to TP back lane, that is not the time when you wanted to recall.
Yeah, especially part of the reason you see Rises so heavily lean towards TP is to get that tier back. They need it so heavily, and it has been denied.
I actually want to have a little talk about this top lane, because we do look at the CS deficit, 44 to 29, as Shikari will be able to pull this back a little bit, but 14 CS down to Flaxish at the moment. Flaxish, quite content. He's even gone into that Kleptomancy, so he has that extra kind of income coming through. Can proc those on the spirits you pull out with Test the Spirit as well.
I mean, the big difference is you can see there's almost about a 0.7, like a 700, sorry, gold lead coming out for Diabolus, and most of that will be in the top lane, and the rest of it you can see is starting to form in the jungle.
Yeah, so fairly significant between those two top laners, but again, it's only going to get worse as it goes on. Flaxis will start to scale once that split pusher, and the big thing with the comp and Diabolus is that there's so much wave clear with the Lethality Varus and the Ziggs. They're going to be able to keep Misfits away for such a long amount of time. Misfits will feel forced to try and engage, and if it backfires, could end up losing the game for them, because if they don't engage, Flax is just going to keep hammering this top lane split push.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's so nice to have such strong double wave clear when you have a split pusher like that, because even before those engages happen, you can sit so far back with the likes of Ziggs and Varus and still make sure that no one can touch those waves. On top of the fact that one of the reasons Braum is such high priority at the moment is his disengage potential.
We're seeing a Flick trying to farm up, hit that level 6 mark. He hung around mid lane, seeing if he could get anything onto Blulu, but he's only level 4, has just dinged on level 5 at this point, but NG's been sitting at level 5 for a while, so we're talking experience leads as well. These level 6s are starting to come through for the side of Diabolus, and Misfits a little bit slower on the punch. Prosphere's only level 4 to Amphorax is level 5, so the Solar Flesh is such a big point for this Leona lane.
Something to note as well is that we talked about the Predator Gragas. NG has opted to not go towards a Predator. It's something we've seen very often within recent competitive meta, because it gives that extra gank compression near the game, gives you that extra movement speed, but here he's gone for the Aftershock, going to make him more tanky in the late game. But again, this is why it's been 0 kills. He doesn't have that extra ganking power, and although he's been stealing the red buffs away, it's not done that much to cement the lead of Diabolus.
It's scaring a Flick off though. Flick too scared to go into his junglers. Both N-Test and Amphorax walked up with the fact that they had the shoving lane bot side, so were able to come in. And now NG's got that level 6 mark, and Special Flashless is always an option for him to gank. But we have seen Special roaming towards that top lane. He does have Realm Warp, and Flaxis actually running quite low. Shikari's going to throw down the Nature's Grasp, and Special is coming running in. Flaxis is forced to flash out, and he does get caught up with the tail end of Shikari's ultimate, but will be able to make his way out A-OK.
Flashburn, though, I'd like to see this punished. Next time Special has his ultimate, he can move up with Afflict and take out this Alawi, but it was a good move so far, and that's what we want to see from a Rise, using his Realm more proactively.
Yeah, and I mean, while we were talking about the early quick wave clear that Varus can use, as soon as he left lane, you saw Rise push up the wave and try to respond with that. The wave clear from Rise still has to be dealt with.
And do you see Prospect going a bit aggressive, but getting zoned off there? One of the aspects of having a Ziggs instead of a Varus.
Look at the mini-map. There's 4 members coming down, and Chrisberg now has that level 6, but Blulu with the corrupting chains can always go in. Chrisberg hops out. They're looking to maybe tower dive here, but Diabolus are thwarted in their attempt as Misfits able to disengage 2v4.
Yeah, and that's huge for Misfits. They brought 4 members down there. The time when Blulu has priority in mid, you move NG down and they find a rocket jump from a Tristana. That's all they got from that. It's a great move for the side of Misfits, and now they have the pressure in the mid lane from Special. They could look to move up top side and punish Flaxish He isn't big right now. They're running a gauge.
Special has flash as well, so he can get out A-OK. Afflict just hit their level 6 mark. It's going to come in, throws the ultimate down, and Special's pumping that damage down. NG flashes forward, throws down the ultimate, but he is running low. Afflict is pumping it down, but can he find the kill? NG goes down to the Winter's Wrath, and now Balulu on half HP is forced to run away, and Misfits find first blood.
Just overzealous from the side of Diabolus. I mean, you know he has his flash up again. You should have had it timed. You burned it earlier. This was not the time to try and punish.
And there was actually slight mistakes there. If we watch back here in the replay, you can see they start immediately swap targets, but instead, NG's actually jumping for Special. Balulu was just not correctly communicating with NG there. And
I mean, the thing is, NG could have got out there. Yeah. He had his flash, but he decided to go back in. The communication wasn't there, and then just end up giving over a kill for free. And when we talked about how Misfits have this great scaling teamfight team, it's not something you want to do at this point.
Now, let's see. It is going to be the lethality, Varus, like you said. So, no one hit Varus mid.
I mean, you had the comment. That was the giveaway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe it till I see it. That's the difference, mate. You're smart enough to understand just off some of the spells and, you know, everything else, what they're picking. But me, I need to see it. The proof is in the pudding, mate. And yeah, Balulu is building towards lethality, so you were correct.
Big thing as well
5 minutes ago, by the way.
Because NG has gone for the Aftershock Gragas, he is trying to fill a more tanky role and is going towards that Cinder Hulk. Again, when we see Predator Gragas, they often go for AP builds to get that extra early pressure. NG knows his team has the advantage now.
Flaxish, leap of faith, but gets caught up by the Nature's Grasp of Shikari's pumping the damage out. But actually, is it Flaxish who's returning it around? Equal trade in the top side. Ultimates used aplenty, and junglers both hanging about, so it could be scary if you are both Flaxish or Shikari at the moment.
But realistically, it's Afflict who wants to go up there, because that ultimate is the big gank turnaround tool that Alawi has, and she's very immobile otherwise.
Shikari has flash, but doesn't need it yet.
Goes in forward. Now we're going to see Afflict trying to put that damage out, but NG's looking for the counter gank. Flaxish will get locked down by the permafrost, and Afflict finds his second kill. That will be the ultimate thrown down onto NG, and Shikari's chasing up hard with an arcane smash. NG's running low.
What
an explosive
The minions!
Slows them, but the minions are chasing. One more, 2 more auto attacks, and Afflict finds his third kill.
And what a turnaround from Shikari and Afflict. NG thought he could come in and save them, but once again, overcommits. The CC's there from that Maokai Sejuani combo, and they had enough damage, which is surprising when there's 2 tanks.
And the big mistake there from Flaxish is you should have been able to predict that with the way Shikari was trading. He traded into you just to blow your leap of faith. You should go, that's the way I turn around ganks. They want to gank me immediately. Didn't have the vision there for Afflict, and kept pushing up as well.
Yeah, big thing to talk about as well is NG didn't go for that Predator. If he had, he might well have gotten there in time to make that a favorable trade for Diabolus. Instead, going for this Aftershock, and at 0-2-0, you got to ask, was it worth it?
The fact is, you picked this such a strong counter pick in the top lane with Alawi, and you gave over Rift Herald in the early game.
Yeah, not the best situation to be in. Looks like they will try to apply some pressure bot, but Misfits playing smart. They know a lot of the resources we just put topside to get this Rift Herald. They back off, they play it safe. And again, testament to this Misfits bot lane. Diabolus tried to apply some pressure previously, and they have given up nothing. Staying fairly close in CS, not losing any summoners.
I'm still liking the attempts coming out from Diabolus, though. They're not kind of falling to the wayside as Misfits are kind of getting the better off on them in these plays. They are still attempting the plays, but they need to start making them work, otherwise they will significantly fall behind to Diabolus. As this bot lane's been relatively quiet. You know, you want that Tristana to get a couple of items under her belt, just sitting on the BF sword for the moment, and working their way towards that kind of full crit, big bursty damage.
But the thing is, when you draft something like Ziggs Braum, you're looking for lane priority. You're looking to keep this push going. They've been able to deny that.
Looks like Special's trying to turn it onto Balulu, who's low on mana. Afflict also hanging about, and we'll come over with our Winter's Wrath. Just let Special push out that wave. Special playing with a nervous still, holding the flash. 1v2.
Such a strong duo with Special and Afflict. Remember, this was the Prem winning combo from last season, and you can just see Special so confident in his jungler. Even when Balulu burns the ult, NG is just freaked out by the confidence from Special. Afflict comes in, he knows he can't make this play, and they just have to go defensive. Good moves from them, and Special, he's really starting to be a problem on this rise. They're summoning the Rift Herald mid. Balulu's off getting blue. This could be a problem.
Well, he's so low on mana that he's going to have a lot of problems dealing with this, as the Rift Herald will bop down that turret. First turret blood will go over to Misfits. They accelerate the
Special as well. That was perfectly swapped over. That'll speed up the Roa build here, which he's likely going to build next.
I mean, one of the problems is we talked about how a big win condition for Diabolus is the split push from Flaxish. But before that, we're going to have a look at that gank from earlier.
you can see here that they kind of go for the play, but with no ultimate and Flaxish, there's just no response. NG tries to come in, but you see how easy it is to pick up Flaxish, who was pushed up with less than half health and no leap of faith available.
One big advantage as well is that Flaxish didn't have his flash there. You saw Shikari used his to get away, save him for a bit longer, and that's what really was the advantage in that fight.
When we saw...
Wait for them.
Oh. One auto attack. He even tried to the damage reduction with the W, just not enough. That is super unfortunate. Now, when we saw NG play versus Monkeys on Enclave yesterday, NG just had his number. He knew Monkeys' playbook. He knew how Monkeys likes to play. This time, it feels like Afflict has just read NG like a book. Every time NG tries a play, Afflict is on the other side making a play, and now he is 4-0 on the Sejuani, and Diabolus is just unable to answer this man.
And it just shows how powerful this combo is with Special and Afflict. No summoners are ult burn from Anthrax and he falls. This Rise is doing a lot of damage.
And one of the things I talked about when talking about Misfits was my favorite thing about their strategies is once they get a lead, they know exactly what to do with it. They know exactly how to accelerate it to a very quick win. And Diabolus are attempting a response.
Going 2v3 underneath the turret as NG chunks that damage down. Explosive cast is flashed away. Special makes his way out. Now Afflict could fall to Balulu and M-Test, who are auto-attacking after auto-attacking, and it will be a shutdown gifted over to the Ziggs. That's a lot of gold in your pocket as Balulu takes the tower shot and flashed forward there.
That was flashcation hour to try and hit Special. Doesn't connect though, but still, they get a shutdown on the 4-kill Sejuani. Diabolus was looking a bit shaky there, but this is what they need to get back in the game.
Shikari needs to be careful with these tentacle slams. One would be enough to kill him, but he's just going to keep backpedaling away. Turret will remain up.
That is the worst way in the game to die. To walk away from an Alawi and have a tentacle just go whap, as you don't expect it.
I'm going to just slightly clarify that. The worst one is if Alawi gets it, pops a corrupting potion, and the burn kills you after the tentacle hits you.
Okay,
that was the worst. I've done that. That is horrible.
You're a terrible person, mate. That is just not nice. But I do want to kind of hit on the fact that Afflict is now 4-1 on the Sejuani. He's got all of the kills. He's got a lot of the gold. And if we look at Diabolus, M-Test, one of the carries, just pick up the shutdown gold off him. So
that was the big issue. He shouldn't have given over that shutdown. That was effectively a free shutdown because he just traded himself for Special. And yes, normally you'd consider, okay, the tank traded itself for Rise, that's fine. But you just handed over the biggest shutdown available in the game right now.
Yeah, definitely an issue. Although Sejuani will scale better into the late game than a tank Gragas. A lot more versatile, so the gold not as useless as it was on champions like Trundle. We saw NG get ahead on that yesterday. One thing that is a big talking point for me though is Flaxish on this Alawi. We talked about how if they can get ahead on this, it's going to be a problem with split push. Thing is though, I feel like Special is so strong on this Rise and has TP. He's going to not only be able to answer the split push if they need to, but he can potentially punish the Alawi and then TP with the Maokai to help the rest of his team contest an objective like Baron. So Diabolus are thinking, we have this late game win condition, the split push might not ever come to fruition.
Now 17 minutes on the clock, we can see the items starting to come through. Special could be getting engaged on too. He's dodging left, right and center, but the stuns connect and he is going low. Shikari comes in with a Righteous Glory and a Nature's Grasp, but Special is still alive. He's dodging away from Flaxish, looking for the damage, and Flaxish finds it, and now Afflict has entered into the fray. Anthrax getting locked up, and Afflict does miss out on that ultimate, and everybody's starting to run low, including M-Test. A solar flare by Prosphere goes a little bit wide, and Balulu is just bleeding out. Chrisberg can't quite find him, but that will be another one onto Afflict, as it's a 2-for-1 in favor of Diabolus, and now they're not done. Now they're looking for the kills. Chrisberg now trying to get a kill onto Flaxish, but he's found himself between a rock and a hard place, or a tentacle and a fat man as he goes down, and Misfits find themselves in a horrible situation.
What a chaotic fight. Have to give the advantage to Diabolus in the end of that, although I believe it was only a 3-for-3, but when you're behind, you want to trade evenly. Misfits had a messy fight.
What was that? What are you doing? That was so messy. Look at how ridiculously split that fight became. Okay, so we start with Special just managing to escape out the back of this, using the phase rush quite well and delaying it incredibly well because you had to have M-Test forced with the stopwatch, and they ran out of damage. Flaxish Fenty picks him up. You then start this 2v4 fight knowing that your team's going to beat you there. That missed ultimate allows Anthrax to escape. M-Test also escapes on similar amounts.
Game of inches could have gone either way, but again, Diabolus trading even when you're behind, always going to be a good situation. But what can they do with that goal? 2 kills of that went onto Flaxish. Is he going to be in a better position to split push now? I would say so, but not quite at that late game point yet.
Okay, Afflict's still going below towers, though.
Yeah, they're chasing in. Shikari's even going to throw down the ultimate. It's a little bit of a far away, but does have that Righteous Glory on, and M-Test running low. Chrisberg will be able to get the kill out. A Mega Inferno bomb was thrown out to try and clear away the wave, so Misfits can't actually pressure into this tier 1.
Yeah, it looks like Flaxish going to be able to take that tower off the bot side, so honestly a decent trade for DIABOLUS, but Misfits doing the right moves. They know how much wave clear there is on this Zig, so instead of trying to just push the wave up, they're like, take the wave clear out at the source, deal with the bomber wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and the big thing for Misfits now will be how they play around this Baron. If they can get this, they can deny a lot of the strong wave clear we talked about, which gives them that ability to delay for their split pusher to force fights. If they can get Baron, very hard for Varus Ziggs to safely clear those waves all of a sudden.
Well, we do see DIABOLUS actually start up this Ocean Drake. Misfits have already been able to secure themselves one. No contest actually going to come through from the side of Misfits, and DIABOLUS will just get themselves a free objective. 2k gold down to their opponents at the moment, and Misfits, if we do start to look at these items, the mana items are starting to stack up on Special. He's starting to hit towards that power spike. Double lethality starting up for Balulu. And then Chrisberg, you know, he's got that static shift, he's got that Storm Razor, that crit, that late game threat is starting to get there for Chrisberg.
Yeah, and speaking of those big spikes, they're going to want those to come in when this next dragon spawns. Will be an Infernal Dragon, a big one to contest, especially when both teams have aspects of the composition that they want to scale up to the late game. The split push from DIABOLUS, the team fight for Misfits, both of them would love to have an Infernal Dragon, and that's what's going to be on the table next.
And with the strength of team fight that Misfits had, you'd expect them to be able to pressure the pit a lot more, and it looks like they're going to do that. But first, they're going to look for the fight in the jungle.
Yeah, Flick's actually going forward, smites away. He finally gets himself a red buff, as NG has denied him so much so far. We'll be able to get his hands on that. I maybe got a little bit hyped about a red buff, but I'm about karma, man.
Yeah, and you now have Special, who, as we expected, is becoming something of a split pusher. Not quite matching the Alawi, but still something that has to be dealt with. And now NG caught out somewhat.
Yeah, caught out somewhat, but has got the backup of M-Test and Amphorax with him, so Special not going to really be able to rotate in time as the rest of the team are a little bit more split. And both of these teams taking their foot off the gas a little bit after that messy team fight topside, although the Vision fight is still here. Yeah, he throws the ultimate down. Actually, no, yes he did. He connected that onto NG. Realm Warp's here as well, and Special's entered into the fray. Great wall by Amphorax will block out a lot of the damage, and now we see Afflict running relatively low, but nobody's in a particular scary position, although that piercing arrow... Okay, okay, thanks, Balulu. Just made me eat my words,
the
apparently.
Empowered arrow coming out from Varus was huge there. Just popped Afflict. What a play.
I mean, you could say what a play. He just sat there and tanked the arrow and went, damn, that did a lot more damage than I expected. I guess I'm dead.
W, he empowered his Q, he fired it through the Sejuani.
It's a play. I'm not sure how impressive I'd touch it, but certainly it does slow down Misfits once more, and now more picks available.
Yeah, Prosper even has that concussive blow stacking up onto him. He's running low. Solar Flare does connect onto 2, and Chrisberg pumping the damage down, but not quite enough to secure anything as Prosper will fall. Balulu goes forward. Ultimate
Balulu
back. They're all very low, and there's a teleport coming through.
Close.
Shikari doesn't have ultimate, but Special is looking to try and get that punish onto the side of DIABOLUS, but DIABOLUS walk away the victors.
But this does mean Misfits can try use this to quickly push up. They can technically pressure the Baron at this point as well. They still have vision control in the area.
They're just going for it.
Head straight over there. NG has to recall. Looks like he's going to renege on that, but he is very low on HP.
This is the perfect scenario. Shikari's ultimate is starting to come up. Still about a third of it left.
There for Balulu.
Let's see if this is going to happen. We had Flaxish on full HP with ultimate available. Already going to get stunned in. Takes a fair amount of damage, but the Ghost is on and Chrisberg is running low. NG with the interrupt with the belly bomb is going to be able to get him with the explosive cast. They're starting to run low. And DIABOLUS find themselves 2 kills. Special full HP now, trying to go 1v5 with the hero players. Prosper goes in full with the Zenith Blade, throws down the Solar Flare and afflicts into the fight. He's managed to find a kill onto Amphorax, and in comes the Flash.
Oh, Special
finds himself another one. Flaxis is dodging out, but he is ducking. Failed. Afflict
finds his 7th kill. A rail walk by Special, and now we have 2 versus 2. Diabolus are on the wrong side of the map, and they are running away. Zenith Blade goes a little bit wide, and NG slowing them down with the barrel. Piercing arrow by Balulu has connected as well. They're inside the turrets. They're going low. Special still chasing an NG with a 3-man belly bob into the 3-man piercing arrow. They're still
there it is.
That's going to be the pick. That's going to be Special with a kill onto NG, and only 1 stands for Diabolus.
Shikari is TPing into that Baron. Chrisberg is running up. They are looking for it. The jungler has just died from Diabolus. Last Baron attempt looked shaky, but I think this one's going to go over to Misfits.
I don't know. Balulu, while he was low on mana, has started to regen. M-Test is here. They can be poked down very heavily, and they do not have the health bars to make this an easy one.
Tanking. Why is Shikari not tanking? Flick's running so low. They're going to have to walk away. Teleport by Flaxish is here, and Baron buff will be dissuaded as a flash over the wall. Oh no! Balulu goes down! Special finds the kill, and Chrisberg now gets caught up by the Glacial Fissure. That's going to be a 1-for-1 trade, and Special still very low on HP. Getting those auto attacks in. MTS is trying to find it, and he manages to shut him down. Chrisberg as well, extremely low, and Diabolus with blinking health bars are finding their team fight when Shikari has gone just way too aggressive, and Flaxish with a tentacle slam finds himself the double kill.
And it looks like it's going back over to Diabolus. They're not going to head straight over to the Baron. Lacking the damage to take out the neutral objective, but they'll pick up that mid tower easily enough. Control is on their side, and Ziggs takes towers so fast in this situation.
I mean, he's still got the explosive cast, the satchel, because he didn't use it on tier 1, so he's going to be able to take tier 2 fairly easy here, as there's only going to be a Flicked and Prosper trying to stop this, and this will be tier 2 going down in favor of Diabolus. Nice and simple. And
actually puts them ahead in gold.
Yeah, they finally clawed ahead. I mean, it's only a 200 gold lead, but it's still a big... It's still... They were down all game.
Which fight is this a replay of? There were so many in a
Baron
row.
fight, so Misfits looked a bit shaky at the start, trying to disengage. It's good moves from Chrisberg to survive for a bit longer. Shikari is giving up, and then Chrisberg actually falls, but Special survives for so long here. And the thing is, Diabolus just don't have the sustained damage. Yes, they have a lot of burst, but here, Special gets chunked down, but the constant reapplications of that shield passive means he has enough health to flash in and just take out M-Test.
Special played for like full man mode here, by the way. Just flashing into 4, going, right, let's come at me, bros. I know you got nothing.
But the big thing from Misfits is, yes, they have the more consistent damage, but they allow Diabolus in. They allow these picks to occur, and suddenly the burst makes those fights look so dangerous at the start, and it happened once more.
Yeah, I mean, Prosper's dead in the replay. That's unfortunate for him. I mean, I'm not going to ask how. He obviously got caught out by 5 members of Diabolus.
They have the burst, they have the pick available to them, and it's Misfits not grouping up effectively enough, quickly enough, and they're getting punished for it.
Yeah, it looks like Diabolus heads straight over that Infernal Dragon, but Misfits understand this situation. They're going to try and stop this Baron.
It's already running very low. They might actually be in a bit of trouble here. Ultimate's connected, and Anthrax is running low. Gets popped back, but he's still got his life. Chrisberg is forced to rocket jump away, and Special with about 60 HP is able to make his way out. Piercing arrow by Balulu is dodged away from Chrisberg, but they are still hot on the chase, looking for him. Ghostblade is not quite available yet. And once again, Misfits get caught out trying for the Baron Nashor.
Yeah, seems very focused on this Baron, and we'll actually see where the pick comes in for Prosper. So he's confident because Afflict is there, but just walks into 4 members of Diabolus. No getting away without a flash. Good ult from NG.
It was a good ult. It knocked him right back in there. But the big thing was, I think he was confident because they were sitting on a control ward. Didn't think they'd notice him going in. Spotted on the lane, though, and gets punished instantly.
Prosper needs to be a little bit careful. Flaxish misses the test of spirit, but does have a flick, so this is going to be a hotly contested Drake. I wonder if Flick just gives his life up to make sure they get this buff. Already running very low, and Flick has gone forward. Solar Flare connects onto just Blackfish, but Blackfish has that ultimate, and already the dragon's gone down. Diabolus are on the chase, and Afflict will fall. Diabolus find themselves 1 and the Infernal Drake. They're starting to turn this game around.
I mean, this is a big thing with the Illaoi, is that if you deal damage after rending the soul from Afflict, he can just die from the extra damage of that.
Oh, Balulu flashes forward. Chains of Corruption have connected onto Shikari. Shikari's running low. Concussive blows are going to stun him up, and that will be the end of the tank. Misfits already starting to get punished here. Now, do we see them go for Baron, or are they going to push?
I think definitely go for the Baron.
Yeah, now is the opportunity you look for. You unfortunately don't have TP from Flaxish, and he went bot to answer. So I think they understand the risks. Decide to move towards the top side. Just get control of the area. Potentially looking for one more pick. Remember, Afflict is up with that smite. They don't want a 50-50 at this point.
Okay, you know where Misfits are. You know how tentative they are to walk in through your vision. So set up the Death Brush. Instead, Misfits are actually running away from it. They're very, very wary, and rightly so.
DIABOLUS are actually going to set up this death rush once again. Prosper, once again, could be on the receiving end of all this attention as Anthrax stand behind me. Can't quite find the Winter's Bite. And now with 5 members strong, DIABOLUS continue to try and contest Vision, try to remain dominant of this Baron area, because this game has really come undone with the fact that Misfits had that itchy trigger finger on the Baron.
One of the things I was going to touch on as well is when you look at these team fights, you do see the fact that they're able to team fight with Alawi is so impressive, because generally Alawi just isn't supposed to do that. It's supposed you expect the split pusher, but because the test of spirit is coming out and because Alawi's so far ahead in terms of items, you're just getting huge amounts coming through.
Oh, Chrisberg. So low. I tend to slam even hit him.
We talked about
You
it.
don't need a corrupting potion for that.
Yeah.
You don't need a corrupting potion for that.
Walked in a straight line, not what you want to do against an Alawi. Oh, most skill shots, bit of an unfortunate one.
And DIABOLUS are playing a really great kiting game here. They're always on so low HP, but Misfits think they can equalize out the score, go, oh, we lost one, but maybe I can get on M-Test because he's just so low, and then gets caught out, and oh, it's a 2-0 now.
And it really feels like Special is playing against their entire team, because it feels like Chrisberg is just being instantly shut out of fights, and Special is positioning himself and finding those openings.
I mean, if you look at DIABOLUS, they've all itemized for Merc Treads, reducing the effectivity of the CC, and there's quite a bit of MR across the board. They're struggling to find the impact without Chrisberg pulling his weight, and he's just not finding the windows in this team fight. Or any of these team fights.
We have Special in that bot lane, pushing up versus Flaxish. Taking a fair chunk of damage, though, is actually Flaxish maybe.
It could be him
looking
going down shortly.
We see a Chains of Corruption actually get used in the mid lane, and Special still low, still chasing away as Flaxish is looking for him. He flashes forward, trying to put that damage on, but actually Flaxish with a shield is pumping it out. I don't know who's going to be able to win this fight. Flash away from the Tentacle Slam, and that was our picture-in-picture play-by-play brought to you by HitBrain.
Yeah, that was some intense back and forth. In the end, both trade their flashes, but you can see how strong this Alawi is at this point of the game.
Yeah, you can see actually Special actually only forced to flash because it was as the slow hit him that the Tentacle Slam was coming down, so well-timed skill shots from Flaxish forced that out.
So such a mastery of this champ that we rarely see at all, not even just in competitive. It's not a commonly played champion.
Yeah, you do see it from certain people in EU. Certainly Odoamne was a big proponent of the Alawi, and it's nice to see it at this level as well, where potentially at the highest level of competition it can be punished that little bit more.
Oh, so much poke on a Chrisberg from that piercing arrow.
Yeah, he's the full lethality. Like, at this point, it's just, you can't step forward to Chrisberg. He doesn't have any actual sustain apart from the fact that he's got a Vampiric Scepter, so I'm going to eat my words. He has sustain, by the way, so
yeah, he's now getting
he can be a little bit less cautious.
Does have one Ocean Dragon as well. Going to come in marginally handy, but you can see Warmogs available from both that Maokai and that Sejuani, so they know what they're dealing with. A lot of poke on the side of DIABOLUS. Have the sustain there, but
DIABOLUS grouping up as 5 here. Great Arcane Smash. Shikari's already been forced to flash away, though, on half HP, and Balulu, the rest of DIABOLUS will be able to take down this turret. Misfits not going to get in range to even contest any objectives for the moment, as Special's recalling in the other side of the map.
Misfits need to be forced a 5v5, because right now they're just getting dragged across the map, and DIABOLUS are moving quicker and using the fact that they have a lot of burst to scare Misfits away from making those same moves as quickly.
Yeah, this is the thing, is that DIABOLUS have constantly had control of this Baron area, and yet they won't start it up because they know if they get called down on it, they're going to struggle against a team fight of Misfits. So they're just trying to push advantages without getting into a team fight as they can now.
The Misfits, once again,
yeah, they're 1 in a 4
They want to
fight.
force a 5v5. Start up Baron, someone has to come deal with you.
They're so itchy on the trigger finger. Half HP, they actually might just full commit here for the Baron, as a couple of members starting to run a little bit low, and Misfits now showing that actually they don't want to risk the 50-50, calling them out as the Mega Inferno Bomb actually clips onto 3 members of Misfits, and DIABOLUS now looking to try and catch out a couple of members from the side of Misfits as they're running back towards their base, as Anthrax just warding up, fishing for a potential Q for a slow, as Prosper steps forward, and DIABOLUS now sieging up the mid lane.
Yeah, they don't actually get punished that much for that because Shikari and Afflict took most of the damage and they have those Warmogs. Back on full HP, DIABOLUS push up, but they understand they, again, don't want to look for these 5v5s. Will back off. An objective they can take without teamfighting, though, is that Dragon. Believe it's a mountain, going to be up in 20 seconds. Should be a fairly free pickup. I think Flaxis could just solo it.
It's such smart play from DIABOLUS. They Nova, they don't have the greater team fight, so they just poke them inside the Baron pit, and Misfits once again just starting up this Baron. This is the 5th time I think they've done it. We've even got the teleport by Flaxish getting used here. A couple of members are starting to make their way up. Actually, Flaxish isn't the one to teleport, it's actually M-Test. Mega Inferno Bomb is down, and 3k HP onto the Baron Nashor. In goes the Nature's Grasp. Glacial Fissure goes a little bit wide as they force Flaxish's teleport out. Baron has not been reflex set yet, but actually Flaxish very, very deep and Afflict as well. But Flaxish is putting the damage onto Prosper. Prosper's running low. One more Tentacle Slam will be enough to secure the kill, and that will be him getting one as Afflict is running away, starting to try a heal up, but Flaxish full HP, but special finds out M-Test on the sideline, and now Balulu trying to get it as NG goes over the wall. The flash belly bop is not going to be enough, and a Realm Warp out will not save your life. It's 2 members of Misfits down, and Afflict is caught in the wrong side of the map. 3 members chasing him up, and he will be surely going down here, although they have got a teleport, they have got the base. The rest of the team are coming through. Shikari's running in. Shikari wants to make the play. Chrisberg remains untouched in the fight. He's running a little bit low, and NG as well, bleeding out, and he goes pop as Chrisberg finds himself the kill. Balulu gets caught out. That's going to be a cleanse used instantly, and now Flaxish still on 4 HP. Balulu's running away. Piercing arrow goes out. Oh, kills down Chrisberg. Now the rest of Misfits are looking for a kill. Leap of Faith is used, but that will be a kill onto the ADC. Flaxish is going 1v2. Can he find the kill onto Afflict? Can he find it onto Shikari? Yes, he can find one, but Shikari's still running away, starting to heal up. Flaxish not going to be able to chase for more.
What a back and forth between these two teams. I mean, we said the series had the potential to be close, but we didn't expect game 1 to be such a nail-biter.
This is a mess, but it is an entertaining mess for certain. And I think part of it's coming through. You're seeing people picked off at the start of fights, and you can see this here again. They start up this TP, and Misfits don't want to go for the 50-50 at Baron. They force it off. They start trying to disengage. What happens here then is their backline gets picked off by a good TP from Flaxish. Yeah,
you would have thought Flaxish TP'd in so deep would be a problem, but he does so much damage here.
What's special on the other side as well?
Yeah, Flaxish and Special are the talking points of these fights. Special able to go to 1v3 and find 1 kill, and then nearly another onto M-Test is just huge.
No, he gets M-Test.
He gets M-Test.
He doesn't get blue.
Oh, yeah,
he
well,
almost
he
manages
gets
to turn it around.
Huge plays.
Unfortunately, he kind of got caught out by NG, who flashed, belly bopped him, and Afflict. This is where it got really confusing. I was like, Afflict's dead, then in comes Shikari with the home guards, with the Righteous Glory, and he just charged.
I want to note here, look at the way Chrisberg is forced to flash as well. This is completely unnecessary, but it's because of the way he decides to rocket jump.
Oh, yeah,
he rocket jumps towards the tentacle, and that forces his flash.
I don't think it was just that the piercing arrow came in from Lulu and had to be out of that. I think another issue is that it was good blocking from Diabolus. Shikari wanted the Varus, but they stopped him from being able to get it. Had to settle for the Gragas, and that's why Balulu was able to survive for so long and get a great piercing arrow back onto Chrisberg. But again, Flaxish is a real talking point for Diabolus, doing so much work in this backline. It just feels like the damage isn't there.
And I mean, part of that is because it feels like Chrisberg isn't able to consistently pump out damage, but here's a fight.
It's actually just Afflict's shadow has been caught, but he does lose 2/3 of his HP, so...
Yeah, if only he had some sort of item that would heal him back up in a couple of seconds. Yeah.
Oh, wait. What I want to touch on is it just feels like Chrisberg isn't finding the position in these fights, and you know, when you look back at that fight, you have to question it. Is it just the fact he's not being given an opening, or is he not looking for the openings in the same way Special is?
We did just see M-Test actually use the Mega Inferno Bomb to try and start pushing the wave away. But actually, there's still a massive stack in that bot lane, so Diabolus do need to be a little bit careful. As Special actually looking to solo out this Mountain Drake on the rise. He is very, very fed. He is going to be that shining star for Misfits as we are approaching that late game stage. I mean, we're at late game, but...
Yeah, the thing is, you feel confident as Misfits because of the fact that Diabolus aren't looking to take the Baron. They don't have as much Baron damage, and Flaxish wants to go on that split push, but he might get caught here. Misfits looking to punish.
He was looking to try and catch Special out there, but it looks like Misfits now
they're the ones that they can just go for the Baron.
Yeah, but trading the Baron for this bot lane tower and potentially inhibitor, looks like they will go for this.
It's going to have to be the base race for Misfits. They're actually committing entirely to this. Baron's actually going down fairly quick at the moment as they don't have that bursty build for it. These structures are falling and Misfits are still inside the base. They're realm warping the minions forward. This is actually the base race.
Still on 4K HP. The Baron's so slow.
They're going in. That's going to be a solar flare. Flaxish is trying to save the day. The Nexus is the focus. Flaxish is sent back at Misfits with a hero play in the back door. Find a 38-minute win.
And it was such a back and forth, and then a crucial mistake from Diabolus means the game goes over to Misfits, and it wasn't clean, but they come out 1-0 in the series.
that has got to be so disheartening if you're Diabolus. You played that so well from the mid-game onwards, and then you go, wait, we can just trade a tier 2 for a Baron, and then suddenly you lose your base.
It was the point I was just talking about. You don't expect Diabolus to rush the Baron because it's so slow. They have a Ziggs, they have a Poke Varus, they don't take neutral objectives fast, and then they decided to go for the race, and the confidence of Misfits, the realm up to get the minions in, just means game's over in seconds.
Like, the point you should make here is that once you get Baron to about half HP and they've taken your inhib tower, you know you're not taking it. You need to back at that point.
Yeah.
You need to force the fight in your base because you've already lost the inhib. At that point, I think it was Diabolus decide, okay, we're committed to this, we just have to go for it. And they lose the game for it instead of just the inhib.
I mean, bouncing back from this, both of these teams now need to look at this game because it was not clean by either side. Diabolus got punished early by a great just rotation and reads coming through from Afflict on the Sejuani. But then Diabolus just played the mid-game so well, punishing them in team fights, not ever walking into the jaws of the beast that was Misfits. Unfortunately, they kind of did at the end of that game, but there was a lot of mistakes made by both teams. So I think both of these teams need to go into the break and look at what they need to do better.
And I mean, what I'd like to say there towards the end as well is Prosper is the primary shot caller of Misfits, so I do want to give him a shout out because he was the one that was consistently pressuring Diabolus, forcing them towards these Barons, and then later on was willing to like pull off them in time, and that's the failure you see on the Diabolus side. They're not able to make those clutch calls in time.
One big worry for me is we saw how much of a problem Flaxdish was on this Alawi. They got that counter pick because they were on the red side. Assuming they switch sides here, Misfits are gonna have that counter pick available, or at least deny it from Flaxdish. And then when you look at the rest of them, I feel like Afflict had the advantage in the jungle, Special had the advantage in the mid lane, Bot was fairly non-interactive, and your one win condition may not be available for game 2. So Diabolus, not only did they lose that game 1, where the mentality might be shaken, if they go onto the blue side, could look even worse for the rest of the series.
And I mean, they pull out this Alawi. They kind of show their kind of ace in the hole, like in game 1.
You can't blind it though. You cannot blind it.
Yeah.
If they go on a blue side and you blind that, Shikari, although he's not the most punishing top laner in the league, he will apply the pressure.
But the point is, they now know it's a potential for Flaxdish.
Yeah,
they know it's something that he's willing to play in this series, and they definitely weren't prepared for it game 1. So this time they'll have a little bit more time to think about it. I'm sure Zen was backstage going, right, what do I do if they play Alawi again? Because that Alawi was the biggest problem for Misfits. Flaxdish played so well, and this is this top laner who we kind of bigged up coming into Forge of Champions, and he didn't have the kind of showing that both Rift and Shikari had. It was kind of a little underwhelming, but then just whips out Alawi in the grand finals and kind of really gives it to one of the players who we've really bigged up.
I mean, the big thing, it's such a heavy counter matchup. You can never win that as Maokai. I do think Shikari played it surprisingly well early on, but the big shout out you have to give Flaxdish is that he played the mid game, even in grouped fights, extremely well, finding picks and just zoning people so heavily.
Well, you can continue to let us know over on that poll who you think is going to win by spamming either Misfits or Diabolus into the Twitch chat. We'll have the results of that coming through fairly soon, so you'll be able to see who everybody is backing in this series. Who are you backing?
Well, since I was backing Misfits before that first game, and now they're 1-0 up.
You're going to continue to back them?
Yeah, I think that would be the smart thing to do.
Not going to play devil's advocate here.
I mean, you're welcome to if you'd like to.
No, I mean, my big thing is that I think, look, that was not clean. It became very messy. I do think it's partly due to the... I wouldn't say it's necessarily the Alawi pick. It was certainly how well Diabolus played as a team, starting to punish the fact that... And something that other teams have not been able to do so far, stop Misfits pushing their advantage.
I wonder if we see more mid lane bans coming out from Misfits and just look to completely block out Balulu's champion pool, because the Ziggs wasn't awful. Oh no, so he was on the Varus. Actually, he had a good showing on the Varus.
Yeah, but I feel like, you know, M-Test is a really solid AD carry. I feel like if you put him on a pick that he can step up on, I think he can really dominate the series. I think, yes, the flex with the Varus go mid and the Ziggs was nice and gave you some early pressure, but when it got to those later game team fights, it just felt like you didn't quite have enough punch to follow through. I think M-Test will be a monster in the late game if you give him a hyper carry and let him get there.
I feel like part of that's unfair, though. You have to remember, Diabolus were winning fights against a 5v5 team fight comp. They lost to a backdoor. They had a lot of control that game, a lot of control we did not expect them to have.
I think Diabolus was setting up well into the fights.
Yes.
Well, that was one of the key things.
That was the way, that was the key thing, because the fact was Flaxish was able to pick people off, and while special was an issue, the rest of Misfits didn't seem to.
I would argue, though, there were a lot of close fights, and if you put, because you saw Flaxish was making such a difference, so was special, and M-Test, I feel like he just wasn't making that much of an impact on the Ziggs. I think if you put him on an AD carry that applies more pressure on those team fights, they would have won the team fights outright.
Well, that was an exciting game one. It is a best of 5 though, so there's more action to come. So after the break, we'll be finding out whether or not Misfits can continue their streak or if Diabolus can bounce back. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a bit.